And a very good evening and welcome to the Saturday preview with myself, David Massey, coming to you just before 10 to 9 on a Friday night. It's a late one this week as I've been at Warwick working for one of the books today. I've had better days. It's been very cold at Warwick today, and I've been working on the rail and the wind just blew straight in at me all day. It's been in my face all day. So I'm cold. I'm tired. I can't find a winner. Everything. I feel like sort of stroppy teenagers, just sort of fold my arms and I'm not playing anymore. But Kempton's a great card tomorrow. It's a really good card, and we'll have a look at the Eider as well. I think there's one tomorrow, an old favourite, which is going to hopefully dig me out of a bit of trouble. I think dig me out of this week's hole. Be nice to find a bit of form before Cheltenham comes around. I've got some reasonably nice looking anti-post bets, but you just want to sort of find a bit of form, don't you? You want to go into Cheltenham with a bit of confidence behind you. So anyway, it's a pity Chepstow's off, because I think in some ways that would have been the most interesting meeting from a betting perspective for me tomorrow. I thought there were one or two at Chepstow that looked quite interesting, but unfortunately that's going to be off. So it's Kempton and the Eider at Newcastle where we're sort of concentrating on. First race at Kempton tomorrow that's on the terrestrial telly box is this Pendle Novices Chase at 1:15, and I am having a bet here. I am definitely going to be backing Comanche Red to follow up his Boxing Day success in what looked at the time a competitive novices handicap chase, and knowing what we know now about the form, I just think he goes off a 7-4 chance tomorrow, Comanche Red, when people actually sit down and look at the form. I think it's tremendous form. He beat Simply the Bets that day. Simply Bets was second. On the slopes, another Chris Gordon horse was back in third. Those two came out and finished first and third respectively in the Timeform Novices, which is always a good indicator, I think, every year. I think that's always one of the sort of key indicators to me. At Cheltenham next time, and then on the slopes himself came out and won at Kempton next time. So the form has been well and truly franked by the second and third, and he panned them over course and distance. He didn't just beat them, he panned them, beat them 9 lengths and more. And it could have been half of that again. He could have easily beaten them. He could have beaten them 15 for me. He really could. I've always liked this horse. Those of you that have taken my writings and read my writings, and I've done for sort of 2 or 3 years now, will know that Comanche Red was from the very first time I saw him in a bumper, which I think might have been, I'll just have a quick look, it might have been at Fontwell, where was it? No, it was at Southall actually. It was at Southall, that's right, I remember now. When he was third behind Strong Glance. And then he came out and beat Beakstown in a bumper. I bet they weren't expecting that at the time. He's a horse that I've always liked, and I've always said he would make a top class chaser. He's a really big, lengthy, strapping chasing time. He's a gorgeous looking horse. And he's now really starting to come of age. He's not entered up for anything at Cheltenham. Now, I think the plan will be to win this and then go to Aintree, because I think Chris Gordon thinks he's a flat track horse, and I probably, on the evidence we've seen so far, I probably just about agree with that. So he can leave nothing on the table here. He can go for it, knowing that he's got time to get over the run with Aintree in mind. It's not like he's got to be ready again in a fortnight. And I'm sure Chris Gordon had this race in mind almost straight away after he won at Kempton last time. Master Tommy Tucker, you have now got to sort of forgive not one but 2 falls. And Kempton's a tricky track. It's a tricky track. I would love to see Comanche Red going to the front at halfway and just putting these to the sword, because generally his jumping's really good. He made one mistake last time. He made the one error. But the further he went, the happier he looked, and the better his jumping got. And I'd like to see that again. I want to see him sort of take it up, halfway, not mess around, because I think he's the best horse in the race for me. and put these to the sword. I think 5-2 is a fair price. I think that's a very fair price. I'd have him favourite, and I'd have him near a sort of 2-1, 15-8, 7-4. That's where I've got him penned in. So Comanche Red will be my first bet of the day. Then we've got the Adonis, and I'm delighted to say that the anti-post piece that I wrote up earlier in the week on Tuesday Daily Punt, if you didn't read it, where I've sort of now added both Solo and Fujimoto Flyer to my portfolio for the Triumph, as well as Trem Wedge, who comes here as well. All three are in the race. I'd be delighted if they finished 1, 2, 3. I'm very tempted to go and back Solo for the Boodles as well. So in particular, Solo. I think I've already had a small bet on Trem Wedge for the Boodles, but I'm tempted to put Solo in because it is, as I said on Tuesday, you look at the horse, it's a Johnny Delahaye owned French bred. It's literally got Boodles stamped down the side of it. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's where he ends up. Even if he turns out to be the best horse in this race by some way, it still wouldn't surprise me if the Boodles is where he goes. I'd love to see a better run from Trem Wedge. Maybe in retrospect, I was expecting a bit more than I got behind Chantry House at Newbury. Maybe he just needed that after a couple of months off and first run for the yard just to acclimatise. It wasn't a dreadful effort, and the way that he was sort of sticking to it in the last 200 yards does suggest a really sort of fast run Triumph or a fast run Boodles might be up his street. I certainly haven't given up on Trem Wedge. Far, far from giving up on Trem Wedge. If people are talking about a Wave of the Sea being a genuine Triumph contender, then you've got to give Trem Wedge respect because he wasn't that far behind him at Fairy House in December, and you've only got one. I say not even a bad run, but all right, it was a step backwards, but it wasn't dreadful. He can come forward from that again. And if he keeps drifting, if Trem Wedge ends up 12-14 tomorrow, I will back him again. I will back him because on the Fairy House form, he's got every chance. He really has. Fujimoto Flyer is a very interesting one. So I've gone with her because she's sort of outside of what we would term the form line. All the form lines from the Triumph at the moment sort of knitting together through about 4 or 5 various horses, through sort of Goshen and All Mankind and Nordano and a couple of others, all sort of knitted together, and you sort of see where it is. And if you're trying to sort of look for something outside of that, then there aren't many, which is why I sort of said both Solo and Fujimoto Flyer are both interested in that respect. So I think at the moment a race to watch and cross your fingers and hope that one or two of them, or indeed all, run really well and go for their intended targets at Cheltenham. Then we've got the Kingwell. I don't want to have a bet in this at the moment. I think the market's probably got it about right. Although, as much as I like Song for Someone, I put Song for Someone up at Ascot last time and I was absolutely convinced we were collecting. I do worry whether a sort of bare 2 mile around Kempton is enough for him. Does he want a little bit further, or does he want 2 mile on a more testing track? I don't know. He's my favourite horse in the race, and there's definitely more races to be won with him. Whether it's tomorrow or not, I don't know. And if he's not him, then it's probably Chitty Bello, who's arguably the class act of the field. Yes, he's got to give a bit of weight away, but this looks an easier task than taking on the likes of Epatante and Super Sunday and Call Me Lord, horses of that sort of nature. So if he's not Song for Someone, then it's probably him, and I don't want to have a bet. Similarly, I'm finding the Dovecote hard to read. My first reaction was that Benson is probably overpriced at about 7-8-1 after that Sandown effort, when it looked like he was sort of half coming to win it, but that Sandown glue pot grounds caused some strange results, and I'm not entirely convinced how solid the form is. There's nothing wrong with what he'd done before that at Ascot. He got beaten 10.5 lengths by Israel Champ, who's one of the favourites for the bumper at the festival. It's fine form, but that was a really big step up. Do I believe it? I don't know. It might be one of those. Again, if it drifts out to a double figure price, I might end up betting it. I wanted to take Buzz on because he's well named his Buzz because he does get a bit worked up before and then again, if you got pictures tomorrow, it'd be worth sort of keeping an eye on. I think pre-race he could drift a little bit if he starts his antics in the paddock again. Take them out. Highway 102, I like. Again another Chris Gordon. I'm a big fan of Highway 102, but I don't know. He's got a little bit to prove. I think this is harder than the two races he's won at Plumpton. So I am less convinced. I just a race to watch for me rather than get involved in, to be honest. And the 335, the Betway Handicap Chase. This is a cracking race, isn't it? This. You can give nearly everything in the field some sort of a chance. Very, very few of these that you can put the pen through. Initially, I thought Black Corton might outclass these. But I still think he might be a pound or two too high on Black Corton. And I will be waiting for something a bit more in the spring, I think. Talk is cheap. This will be a lot easier than taking on Santini, but he was a bit disappointing then. You can argue he probably needed the run, but he might need this run as well. He's been off a fair while since then. But there are, again, races to be won with Talk is cheap. And he's probably being lined up for a spring campaign. Kildisart, I mean, he's now looking nicely handicapped off 151 on some of his form of last year. Ben Pauling's horses are just, talk about hard to read. He had a winner at Doncaster, the Macon Lugnatic, earlier in the week, and then you're thinking, well, maybe they'll start running better. But his four horses around that have pulled up, and got beaten 54 length. You pays your money and you takes your choice, don't you, really? Mr. Malarkey, I've about had enough of this season. I gave up on him. I'm glad I did ask it because he ran like a drain. So I'm glad I sort of left him alone. Too many bad runs now from Mr. Malarkey. I think he's probably an early season or a spring horse. Adrien Dupont, the case is clear for him, but any value is long dried up. Highway 101 needs to bounce back off a bad one at Cheltenham, where he probably did a bit too much too soon. But that might be the case again here, because there is some pace in this race. Dashing Percourt down the bottom always likes to lead. Black Corton's bound to be there throughout. So there's pace on the front end here. And it might pay to just go with something that's going to sit in behind and try and come through late and nick this. And I've ended up coming down on the side of Double Shuffle. Now, a marker 150 is £4 lower than he was when he was second in the race last year. He got beaten a length by Walt, and he was also second in this race back in 2017. I think from £4 lower, about £3 or £4 lower. I think he was about 146, 147, and he's 150 tomorrow. So his mark's fine. Now, since that second to Walt, he's got form figures of pulled up, 12th beaten 45 lengths, 8th beaten 25 lengths, and 5th of 5 at Ascot last time, beaten 37 lengths. However, this is very much Double Shuffle's Gold Cup, I think. His Kempton form, we know, is absolutely top draw. He's at Kempton, when he's on song, he's top class. And I mean top class because obviously we've seen him finish second to Mike Bite in a King George. This is his track. Now, you can make an excuse, and you can make a perfectly legitimate excuse for every one of those four outings. Firstly, that pulled up was in the Gold Cup. Outclassed. Cheltenham, not his track. Forget about it. Aintree was over the national fences. Did he take to him? Don't think so. Happy to forgive that. Then we don't see him till Ascot, where he runs all right, actually. I thought he ran okay that day against Vindication. Finished midfield, got beaten 20 lengths. Okay, he'll come on a bit for that. And then the ground at Ascot was just glue pot, and he's never really wanted glue pot ground. So there are excuses for each of those four runs, legitimate ones, I think. And as I say, this, I'm sure, given he's been second in the race twice, he'll be tuned up to the minute for this. It's a double figure price, and I think that's just about fair enough for an each way bet. And I think he is an each way bet, because the big worry with me with Double Shuffle is not those four runs. As I say, you can find an excuse. It's the fact he ain't won a race since 2016. That's the bigger worry for me, and that's why I think he's an each way bet rather than a win bet, because I think he's probably far more likely to hit the frame than he is win. But if they do fall in a hole, if they go a bit quick and he can get his jumping out to keep his jumping out together. I mean, last year he did everything but win in the race. He looked the win up everywhere, bar last 150 yards really, when Walt drove alongside, and even then he's tried his hardest. He kept going. The fact that the ground is drying up all the time at Kempton tomorrow, they've got one really sort of soft area, but apart from that, they're calling it good to soft, and it's been dry and wind all day again today. It'll help. And as long, so I think this is Double Shuffle's chance. I think you'd want a double figure price given that overall win record, but yeah, I think that's fair enough. He'll do for me. Newcastle, the Eider. This isn't going to be pleasant watching, is it? We've got 4 miles, almost 4 miles to 4 miles, 1.5 in what is going to be pretty bottomless ground. I think with that, the first thing I sort of thought to myself was I want something here that's not got a great deal of weight on its back, because the horses at the top have all got a bit to prove. Prime Ventures, 4th in the Welsh National, is probably the best bit of form in the race. Fell at Haydock and then got turned over at odds on at Exeter. I find Evan Williams one of the hardest yards to read. I really do. I can never get him right. If Prime Venture shows the Chepstow form, yeah, but if he don't, I think he's going to struggle. 45 Bay, I've got concerns about the trip with. I have for most of these, to be fair. Shandro Santos, we know will stay, but he's so in and out, and I thought he should have run better at Sandown against Japek last time. It was a bit disappointing. Calypso Collonge has won, well, his last win came over 2.5 miles. Again, it's a sort of mixed pedigree that sort of says whether he'll stay or not sure. Petite Power, I'm so disappointed in a way to see Petite Power here, because I've already bet early season after Petite Power won at Cheltenham with Liam Harrison on his back, won back in October. I immediately pegged him down. I thought if they can get some improvement out of this horse this year, that's a Kim Muir horse. And he's entered in the Kim Muir. But that's only like 2 weeks away after this. So in a way, I'm hoping Newcastle gets called off, because I've got a decent price about Petite Power for the Kim Muir. And I think if he runs well here, he's only got 2 weeks to get over that, before he runs in the Kim Muir. So it's a bit of a catch-22 situation. In a way, I want to see him run well, and then I know he's in good health. But equally, I think if he does go close in this, then he's probably going to knacker his chance up in a couple of weeks' time in the Kim Muir. Very first time's a weird one. I mean, on breeding, it shouldn't be staying this far, but it does, probably. The one I've ended up going with is right down the bottom, with no great confidence, I have to say. My reasons for it are not tenuous, but, I think I just want something with a low weight here that will, I think, stay. And Financial Outcome, who's had a wind up since last being seen. I think his last 2 runs have been a lot better. I mean, first of all, he came out and won a little race at Doncaster over 3 mile 2, where he ran away from them in the closing stages. It might not have been a great race, but all he looked like that day was that he was a stayer. And then at Uttoxeter next time, he was still in with every chance when he made a mistake. I think it was about 3 out, and he lost his irons. Ryder lost his irons, got them back, and still only got beat 12 length after doing enormous damage, really. Just couldn't quite get back to them. But the winner of that race, Fortescue, is a horse I like a lot. I think he's an improving young chaser, and again, he's a horse I looked forward to jumping a fence. So I don't think the form's that bad, actually. In fact, the Uttoxeter form, even though he's lost his irons, he's no worse than the Doncaster form you'd have expected it to be, and it's not. So I think there's more to come from Financial Outcome here. And the fact he's had a wind up, I think, is probably a good thing. He acts in bad ground. I don't think that's a problem. I think he's likely to stay, and I just want something with not a great deal of weight on his back. So again, you'd want double figures, and I think 1 or 2 of the firms are paying 4 places, which I'd be happy to take as well. But he'd be a sort of small each way bet, I think, just as an interest in the Eider. Best bet tomorrow, without a shadow of a doubt, for me is Comanche Red. I'll be disappointed, I think, if he gets beat. I think I will be disappointed because, as I say, I think he is the class act of that field, and I still think there's more to come from Comanche Red. I'd like to see him win here and then go to Aintree. take them on there, because that'll be right up your street. Okay, let's hope there's a winner in there. We can get back on the winning trail. Have a great weekend, guys. I'll be back on Tuesday probably with a roundup of the weekend. And we start looking forward, I think, finally, a couple of weeks' time, we'll be down at Presby Park. Cheers, guys. Enjoy your weekends.